My name is Jonathan Reinbold with Tierra Miguel Foundation.
I'm Ashley Holhart. I'm also with Tierra Miguel Foundation and the San Diego Growers.
So we're here to talk a little bit about the San Diego Growers. Last year, when this conference was at San Diego State, we presented then as well. And were any of you there at that? You were there? Okay, very cool. So, okay. All right. So a lot has developed in the past year. It was very conceptual at that point in time, and now we really have some a lot of progress that we've made already in the past year alone. So we'll start out by giving a history of what and who the San Diego Growers are and why they are who they are, and then talk about what we've done so far and kind of the plan over the next year to 2 years. So first, the San Diego Growers are small and mid-scale producers throughout the county and also within 25 miles of the county's borders. We are in the process of incorporating as an agricultural cooperative, so we should be doing that within the next couple months. So right now, we are not a formal entity, it is just a collective of producers. We came about, we started organizing a little over 2 years ago in February of '09 when we held the first meeting with some local growers at Tierra Miguel Farm, and the intent was just, let's try and start an ag co-op, but none of the growers that showed up were interested in that. They were much more interested in having a permanent market in San Diego. So the reason for that is that we lack that central distribution point for our small producers in San Diego. Our agricultural economy has shifted greatly in the last 60 to 70 years. Pre-World War II, we had no imported water into the county, but in the 5 years following the end of World War II, we had 2 aqueducts approved and in construction. And at the time, milk and beef were in the top 4 of our ag products. So what we had was a lot of cows ranging over a lot of open space. We weren't growing fruits and vegetables much. As water came in, we were able to increase the diversity of crops. But what happened pretty quickly was ranch and farm size shrunk. The cost of inputs were going up right away. So water came in and it instantly transformed our ag economy into one going away from pasture-based, essentially. So we had avocados that at that time they became a top crop, and they've been a top crop since cheap water started coming in. But with the cheap water, it quickly got expensive after ranchers and farmers had switched over to different products. So to be able to maintain production, farm size shrank pretty rapidly. And in the last 15 years alone, we've lost 40% of our ag land. So we went from 500,000 acres in '97 to right around 300,000 acres right now. So we're shrinking in terms of our ag land, but what's happening is it's not disappearing. It's just breaking into smaller pieces. So we have more and more landholders, more and more landholders. We have the most number of farms in the county, or most number of farms in our county of any in the country. So did anyone know that we have the most number of farmers? Yeah, 6,687. In this last census period, we just got ahead of Fresno, so they're the second highest in all of the country. So lots
and the most female producers too.
Yeah,
in the country.
27% of our farmers are women. Over 25% of our farmers are Latino, so we are very diverse in our agricultural system, which is something to really be proud of here. And you probably noticed that we have a lot of farmers that are resettled refugees coming into San Diego as well. So our diversity is really increasing there, and it's great that those new farmers are bringing the crop diversity back. We had been going from that pasture-based, and we're still very heavily into non-edible ag products. Our economy, our ag economy is a $1.5 billion industry, but 2/3 of that is for non-edible ag products. So that's exotic plants, sod, all these things that we can't eat but we are using our imported water to produce. And the reason is those products fetch a higher price in the marketplace. So it's an opportunity where those producers could go back to raising food. They've gone to nursery crops mainly because vegetables don't pay the bills when water costs $1,000 a unit, and it should be at probably around $2,000 a unit within another 8 years. So we have a huge opportunity right now to really facilitate a change to a food-based agricultural economy rather than continuing towards that centralization of nursery crops. So the San Diego growers' focus is on growing food. So we're not just come one, come all. We have some specifics to the San Diego growers. So Ashley, you want to talk about some of the defining characteristics of the growers so far?
Yeah, so the growers have decided on 3 specific characteristics thus far that defines them, and that's within 25 miles of the San Diego County border, but not including Mexico. They're also supposed to be biodiverse and sustainable, which is yet to be defined, but we're really looking at what percentage of their total crop land is dedicated to one crop. If they're only growing avocados, we try to look for farmers that are a little bit more diverse in growing different types of food crops on their acreage. And then the third thing is no genetically engineered seed, so they can't use any GMO seed for food production. So those are the 3 characteristics that they currently have voted to define them, but we're in the process of creating a rubric that the growers will use to kind of do a peer-to-peer evaluation. And that evaluation will not only include the way that they are growing their food, but also the way that they're producing their food in relation to their labor, fair labor laws, and sustainability, their community outreach, and really try to lift all the growers to become better in all different areas of the rubric. So that's in the process of happening, and that's what we're going to use to try to bring more growers in to the group.
So presently our group of producers is about 25. We have folks from 2 acres to 350 acres in size. Most are under 100 acres. Most are actually in that kind of 0 to 10 acre range, which is really representative of the county. So with all those farms, 6,000 and change, 4,500 are less than 10 acres in size. So lots of farms, really small, and the median farm size is 4 acres. So that's this area here is probably about 2 acres in size, maybe 1 3/4. So pretty small area that our median farm size is. So with that in mind, our farmers lack the infrastructure, and that's really where the idea of a public market or a permanent place came from. They lack the infrastructure on farm to effectively distribute their products to wholesale institutions. So they don't have the cooling space, they don't have the warehouses, frequently they even lack the distribution. So sometimes they don't even have trucks or vans to put their product in and move it to market.
Or the labor to get it there.
Right, right. A lot of our farmers are they're sole proprietorships with no employees but themselves. So our farmers need to work together to produce the volume needed to work with institutional markets. And they need to work together to effectively distribute it and spend more of their time in the fields rather than in the truck. It's really important that we're sharing resources and looking at each other as partners in this rather than potential competitors. So with that in mind, the regional food hub is what developed. A regional food hub being kind of that public market piece, but more for wholesale. So we look at it as 2 different approaches. Public market, where that's retail, that's where you folks would go every day, get your product, the fresh fruits and vegetables, but also having artisan products as well. A lot of cities have them, and San Diego used to have one, but we don't anymore. It's something that can really tie a community together, and San Diego's been lacking that for quite a while.
Where was that?
A public market?
Yeah, where was the public market?
Down in kind of near where Petco Park is now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Oh, I know where that is.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Right now there is?
There's not anymore.
Years ago,
Right.
Yeah.
by
Yes.
Western Meadow or something.
I'm not sure the
Yeah, I
address.
used to go to it, yeah.
But, so we've been lacking that for a while now, and we view that as being a very important component for San Diego, and that's more of like the 5-year timeline for us. Our immediate step is our aggregation site. So in our regional food hub, with all these small farms, our intention is to actually benefit one another rather than competing. So we are coordinating production on multiple farms. So we know who's growing what, at what time, so that collectively we have the volume to work with institutional buyers. So, for example, in March, Tierra Miguel Farm and Susie's Farm both planted a variety of broccoli to sell to institutions. So there were, how many bought it actually?
About
4 or 5?
4 or 5 different school districts bought it.
So individually, and we weren't able to meet the total demand for it amongst all those institutions because we only had 2 farms that were able to produce it at the price that was allowed to be spent by those institutions. There's a lot of barriers in institutional procurement due to commodity programs and stuff. So certain products will work and others won't. But last month we had the broccoli that went to 5 different institutions throughout the county. It was the first time that we actually planted something specifically for those institutions. And yesterday was the second time that we actually took to market those products from multiple farms that were put in the ground for the buyers. So we dropped off, yesterday I dropped off cilantro from Tierra Miguel and the Sage Mountain Farm that's going to go onto the school meals at San Diego Unified on Wednesday. So we're getting more and more local, organically produced products going into the meal programs that we wouldn't be able to do individually.
Do you want me to hold questions to the end?
No,
or-
we can have a discussion.
Make this.
Are you labeling it San Diego growers, or are the growers keeping their marketing?
Right. Great question. Because we are not incorporated yet as an entity, it's still maintaining the individual farms. It came from Tierra Miguel though, so we bought it from Sage Mountain Farm and then we sold it to American Produce Distributors, who sells it to San Diego Unified School District. As soon as we incorporate, which will be happening in the next couple months, it'll be San Diego growers product while maintaining source identification. So that's extremely important for us that the growers are a marketing cooperative, but we retain that identification of where the product came from. Yeah.
So I can see products in Whole Foods or Jimbo's, you know, where say Archie's or whoever is already distributing there. What's the incentive to be part of the growers if you're already in there? Like, how do you? Because then you're basically selling wholesale.
So we have a tiered business strategy. The institutional markets are important, not necessarily for promotion, but in terms of the volume of product. So we need each other for that institutional wholesale volume. Okay. We are in the development stages of our growers basket. Our growers basket, which to some people may look similar to a CSA. It's not exactly the same thing, but we'll be putting 1 to 2 products from all of our growers into one share that is going to be going to our traditional customers there. So that's our main marketing, the next step for us, where most of us are already into Whole Foods markets and Jimbo's, but we really see this growers basket as a big opportunity for us. Additionally, working with restaurants, it's really important to have a greater breadth of diversity of product. So right now, a lot of us are fruit and vegetable producers, but we have some ranchers in the group that are really restricted by policy throughout the county. So by working together, we want to expand our product diversity and really address the limiting factors in the local food system that keeps our products out of the marketplace. So beyond beyond meat, we're looking at dairy products and eggs as well. The dairy products are limited because there are not a lot of dairies in San Diego. That has really kind of shrunk in those 60 years since World War II, when we had 200 and now we have 3. So we're going away from dairy in a pretty rapid way. So we want to provide a real opportunity, an incentive for those that are still dairying to remain doing so, and others to come back to it.
And also to expand on your question, many of the growers are in the group for various reasons. So we have a small grower who's a new grower. He's a young farmer. He's really trying to figure it out. So he's using it mainly as resources and ideas and marketing and trying to really get his feet wet and be around more experienced farmers that have been doing it for a long time. On the other end, we have Be Wise Ranch, who's an extremely established farm. They don't really need us per se, but they're part of us because they see what we're doing, they understand what we're doing, and they want to be part of, you know, creating this more regional food network and environment. So they're doing it just to kind of get us rolling and give a little bit of strength. Yeah.
With our ranchers, we have a couple established ranchers who are right now selling chickens. There's an exemption for small producers of animals for chickens, turkeys, and rabbits, where there can be on-farm slaughter up to 20,000 head a year. Those exemptions do not exist for mammals. So we have folks that are raising goats and sheep and cattle and pigs who aren't able to sell their product wholesale because there's no slaughtering facilities in San Diego that they can get their product to market. So they can sell a live animal and have it slaughtered or arrange for it to be slaughtered for the buyer, but that's a direct-to-consumer relationship. So there's no way to get that product into restaurants, into retailers, or any other market besides the end consumer. So it definitely limits the sales that one has in that industry, and it really takes a lot of time. Not many people are buying whole animals or even half an animal, and if someone wants half an animal, you have to find someone else to buy half the animal. It's a huge time investment, and really farmers want to be farming. They don't want to be selling quite as much as being on the land. So we're really looking at addressing some of those systemic barriers, both from the producer end and the consumer end. People want local meat, people want local dairy products, and for whatever reasons, for like multiple reasons, they can't get there. I saw that there was a session, I think earlier this morning, about a goat dairy co-op. Did anyone go to that?
I think that's this afternoon.
Oh, that's right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I would be
We should
going to it
merge.
if it weren't here right now. It would be great to hear what's going on with that.
Right.
I'm sure they have some really significant barriers, and maybe we'll go over there and kind of recruit them. So we'll see what happens.
Could I, just to clarify what you just said, one of the things that the growers is working on is changing the policy so you can slaughter on farm?
We're working at the advocacy level. We've had some lawyers evaluate the regulations. So we're working at that policy level where we want to facilitate the change, both just on farm and how people are producing food, but at the regulatory level as well. So we're trying to get that done. That's long term. In the interim, before such an exemption would be actualized, we're more likely to see a mobile slaughter unit or even the construction of an in-place physical location.
Those would be federal regulations you'd have to change.
Exactly. It is a federal regulation, but actually the approach that personally I'd like to see initiated is have the state establish an exemption, whereas just like in our last balloting time, we had Prop 19, which was California trying to legalize marijuana, which is separate from the federal regulations. I want to see California establish just a state regulation that is separate. So the feds could come in and then enforce their regulation, but I think it's an approach that could be taken.
And
the idea of, the mobile slaughter unit, with the growers all getting together and organizing as a co-op, it gives us more power to apply for grants and funding to actually achieve that. If there's more players involved that are going to benefit from the creation of a mobile slaughter unit or even a slaughterhouse, then we can really apply for funding and have a better story to tell.
Are there any other questions?
Hinting on the state legislator aspect of it, what's your relationship with local, state, and federal, officials? Do you?
We have pretty strong relationships locally with our Board of Supervisors, and we're trying to bring the San Diego City Mayor Jerry Sanders into our process. And he's very receptive. So we're building those relationships, and at the state level, the state assembly speaker is John Perez, and his community representative has been working with me pretty closely, and they're working on it at the state level in the assembly. So we're pushing on it on all fronts, and I wouldn't say anything's imminent, but I feel good that county, city, and state were forging ahead. But if you have any additional contacts, please let us know. For sure. Do you want to talk about oranges in October?
Sure. So I'm the Farm to Institution coordinator for this project, and so my responsibility is really making relationships with institutions that are interested in starting to procure locally, but they don't really know how to get there. And so, and every institution is so different size-wise and management-wise and capacity-wise and the number of meals that they're serving. And so the challenges are pretty broad. With the school districts, we've been forging ahead very strongly. We have one of the most progressive farm-to-school task force, I would say, in the country. We meet at Stone Brewery, and we have about 6 to 10 producers that attend those meetings. They sit down at the table with food service directors from the schools and other representatives from the schools that are in charge of procuring food. As well as we've recently been getting a lot more distribution companies to attend those meetings, so the actual distributors that those schools are working with are coming to the table, because what's happening is we're kind of telling the food service directors, ask your distributor to start carrying this, because the fact of the matter is if we can put pressure onto those distributors to start bringing into this food, it becomes a marketing ploy for them. Like they can now tell their other schools when they're going out to bid, well, we're purchasing local from these farmers, and it kind of builds up their program. So I'm getting more and more distributors starting to contact me like, where can I get this local food everyone's talking about? So everyone kind of sits down at the table, and the farmers say, well, I have surplus this and I have large amounts of this. So back in October, the harvest of the month for San Diego Unified was oranges, and obviously here in San Diego County we have a lot of oranges. So one of our farmers, Noel Staley, was able to give a really reasonable price for his oranges, his number 2 oranges, which are stepped down from the really fancy ones, the really expensive ones, but still just as tasty and just as good for students to eat. And San Diego Unified was able to establish a price with Staley and go through their produce company, which is called American Produce. 4 of our other schools use American Produce, so it was very easy for those other 4 institutions just to hop on board and also get those oranges locally. And then I was working with 5 other school districts that were also interested in purchasing those oranges. So some of them went through their distributor, others were able to go direct through the farmer, and we were able to source oranges to 13 different school districts in October. So that was kind of our first really big push for getting the local food into the system and really starting to get people talking about it, and that's when the farm to school meetings really started just growing. In fact, at this point it's standing room only. We can't, everyone's just really hearing about it and starting to come to the table. So there's been a lot of leverage. And the broccoli was able to get into about 4 different school districts, and the cilantro is going to San Diego Unified. So I think the coolest part about it is that the institutions themselves are asking their distributors for it, and the distributors are calling me and asking for our availability list. So what I do is our growers send me their weekly availability on Wednesday, and I aggregate it all into an availability sheet, and I send that out on Fridays, and then the institutions order from me by 2 o'clock on Monday. And then I tell all the farmers what their pick list with basically what's been ordered. They go out and pick, and then we are aggregating that product at Tierra Miguel. So currently we are the regional food hub that Jonathan's been talking about. And then I figure out the distribution from there. So if we have certain growers that are going certain places, we are able to kind of utilize the distribution channels that are already in place to move that product around to the distributors or wherever it needs to go. Yeah.
Do you see that changing in the future? Do San Diego growers ever want to be the distributor? Or are you going to work with the established pieces?
Yeah, right now we're looking for a more centralized aggregation site. Tierra Miguel is located in Palma Valley, which is 15 miles east of the 15, so it's not ideal for all our growers to come to us. So we're looking for a site along the 15 near 78 where it's really central to a lot of our production areas. So growers they only have to drive 10 to 15 miles to drop off versus 40 to 50 miles to get it down to San Diego. And the growers, we're very wary of actually becoming a distribution company. Growers want to grow, and distributors, they know logistics and they distribute product. It's likely that we'll have a truck or two on the road, but we really want to stay away from that. We want to continue building relationships, and we want those distributors to keep coming to us for product. It makes sense for them business-wise too, because they're only going to have to drive 40 miles to us versus 120 going up to LA to the terminal market where they go every day already. So it makes sense to work with us, and that's really the kind of relationship that we want to have. Rather than pushing out, we want to actually increase the economic impact of the San Diego growers on the local food system.
What are the barriers to selling local food to big box stores, for example? Because, I mean, it seems like they import stuff from, all around the world, and yet, you can't get a ripe tomato, and they think that, you have tomatoes that are growing all around here.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of issues. Some are price points, others are kind of just the price points. Like they're just,
because they have to have a profit margin in their sell retail.
And
not only that, they've built their business around these price points, but also their infrastructure is built with certain suppliers that are able to supply consistently and make sure the size and the shape is all very uniform, and our growers aren't there yet, but the people we're reaching out to aren't people that are expecting that. We're building more of what we're calling a value chain instead of just a supply chain. So we're trying to communicate the story about food to the people that are purchasing it from us, saying that just because a tomato is this big doesn't mean the taste, it doesn't have to be perfect and round and have this certain color to be a quality tomato. So that's something we're working on. But another thing one of the barriers that I find with institutions is they have preferred vendors, which is what I was just talking about, but also the insurance issues are huge. For a lot of the big hospitals that I'm trying to work with, they want a $5 million insurance policy. Our small 2-3 acre farmers aren't going to have that type of insurance coverage. And so the idea of the growers, Tierra Miguel has a $5 million insurance policy, and what we're doing is buying product from the growers that don't have those policies. We take ownership of the product, and so we're taking on the risk. And so we use our insurance policy, and the growers themselves will have that high insurance policy in order to cater to all of their farmers. So that's one of the barriers, but that's also one of the ways we're trying to get past that. Hi, yes?
How's Tierra Miguel doing?
good.
They're doing good, right? They're solid? Everything's good? Okay.
You want to come out on Saturday? We have a strawberry U-pick.
Oh, is that the next Saturday?
Yes.
Okay, let me get that. Okay, tell us about it. What's happening at Tierra Miguel?
We have a strawberry U-pick next Saturday from 11 to 1. Aaron will be there facilitating that.
Okay, is that the big spring event?
No, we have several upcoming events. The bigger one is on the 30th.
30th of May?
Strawberry Festival.
Uh-huh.
No, we have, what month are we in? April 30th, we have a big one, and then May 21st is the Strawberry Festival.
Wow.
We just have too many strawberries right now. That's why we're having the impromptu.
Wow. Can you say a little bit about the program with the Bantu people growing food out there?
Yeah, we work with IRC, and they work with newly resettled refugees from all over the world, and we have a farm program called REAP, Refugee Entrepreneurial Ag Program, and we donate 5 acres of land to the Somali Bantu farmers, and they just came out to start the season on Thursday. So they started planting for their summer crop, and we've been doing that. This is our 3rd season now.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yes.
The growers, back to the growers, you said some sole proprietor farmers. Do you see being able to take food from, say, a backyard grower, that's able to, add to the distribution?
So kind of piggybacking with the Somali Bantu, there's a group of 15 to 18 of them, and right now they only have 20 beds planted, so it's not a huge amount of product. They're, I guess, essentially a collective as well, so we are trying to kind of incorporate them, and the main focus of the Somali effort, though, is education. It's not necessarily business, whereas our growers are in business. So with that in mind, we want the San Diego growers, and the San Diego growers are an incentive to remain in agriculture. So it needs to make business sense for folks. And the Somali Bantu, after they finish that program, the goal is for them to be farming on their own. So we want to make sure they're involved. They won't be farming at Tierra Miguel any longer, but we want to be providing a viable business opportunity for small and very small producers. So going back to the original question of whether backyard growers would be involved, I don't see why not. The only kind of overarching limiting factor is that you fall within the standards that we're developing. So producing good food in a way that aligns with what we're setting up as kind of our values.
And I have a story that I could tell about similar what he's talking about. Lemon Grove Elementary School has started a farm stand on their campus. On Fridays, their PTA does a farm stand where they go and during the pickup and drop-off time with the kids, they have a farm stand and the parents can pick up veggies and stuff for the weekend. They buy all of their produce for their stand from the San Diego growers. One of the fathers that was in the PTA that was working with the stand, he had a bunch of trees on his property, varieties of oranges and tangerines and avocados and stuff. He went and got his certified producer slip from Ag Weights and Measures, and now he is also contributing to the farm stand on that campus. So it's just one of the fathers of one of the kids who never really thought, oh, I could actually sell this product. And Sadie, who is the contact person for that, is asked if he would be able to join the San Diego growers because he's expressed interest in also joining. So really, I think it's a cool story of somebody thinking about or not realizing the value of what they had and then giving them a marketing opportunity, and now he's actually thinking about producing more and becoming a grower himself. So
I hope to hear a lot more of those stories, as we continue moving forward. And kind of slightly different, but in the same realm. We want producers that are either transitioning away from nursery crops or tree crops to see vegetables or kind of different tree crops as really being a viable option for them. So some people grow the non-edible crops because they want to, but others because they're just trying to stay in business agriculturally. And there's been the history of ag land in San Diego goes from tree crops to nursery crops to homes. Now, right now, it's not an ideal time to be building a lot of houses, so we are really trying to present ourselves as a very viable option, whereas that land, prime ag land that just has container nurseries sitting on it, never becomes homes, but is preserved and kept in agriculture. And people are going to be growing food that's kept in the county and consumed by our citizens rather than being turned into whatever exotic plants and shipped all over the world. So I have no issues with that type of agriculture. It's just that we need more food locally. We have the capacity to produce it. but the economics of our agricultural system make it so that it's more profitable to import water and export non-edible ag products. So our ag economy is very big, it's very strong, but it's not really based on locally consumed food. So we'd like to expand that portion of it.
It sounds like the growers are fairly small, cooperative at the moment. So what would be a good size for each cooperative? How do you get them?
My goal is 50 producers by the end of 2011. And we started by going to farmers markets and started recruiting farmers. And we were a pretty small group for a while, less than 10 up until really until October when the orange deal happened. And other growers have been seeking us out, and they really see value in it. So I think we're, in terms of approved growers, around 20. The process we have is once we are introduced to them, we have to fill out a survey just to find out about them. We go into a farm visit, kind of just verify they're growing what they say they're growing and in a way that aligns with our values, and then we'll start working with them. So it's essentially just call us up or shoot us an email and let's start the process of working together.
No criteria, organic or pesticide-free or anything?
Pesticide-free, yes, but not certified organic. I don't know. Originally, about half of our farmers were certified organic, but now more and more of the growers that are coming on now grow organically, grow in line with the National Organic Program, but are not certified.
Is that mainly an issue of cost a lot and it's time consuming?
Cost and also just personal reasons. They just don't want to contribute to that system.
Are there particular crops that are not suited for your the regional food cooperative grower system, or
where we are right now, we have so Mountain Meadow Mushroom is a large mushroom producer that is with us, and because we're working with a lot of schools, they don't bring mushrooms into their school meal programs for whatever reasons. So while he's involved, his product is not really being accessed a lot right now. But our next step, as I mentioned, is that Growers Basket, which will be starting up in a few months. And that's a way that like you could definitely be involved right away. So if you're wondering like, oh, I'm not in elementary school, I'm not going to be eating that product, that's not our main focus. But in the Growers Basket is really how we see that wide diversity of product being incorporated. So lots of fruit and veggies, the meat, eggs, dairy, mushrooms. So perhaps there are some items that are just not right, but I think that from Tierra Miguel's perspective of running a CSA, we hear all the time, more diversity, I want different things, and that's really where we're coming from. We're looking to access a market that a single farm CSA is just not the right fit for. The folks that want a greater diversity of product, that they don't need that singular relationship with one farm, but one big greater selection of items.
And because our county is so huge and we have so many different microclimates all over the county, some growers are really good at growing some things and others aren't. And so the idea, or what we're seeing and what we're hearing is that consumers get kind of CSA fatigue. They're just receiving a lot of greens, a lot of, it's just like, right. And so the idea is like, well, you grow,
CSA member?
we have great okra.
Tell you later why.
Yeah, so I mean, people like partner up with other CSAs and will trade stuff, you know. So the idea is, well, why don't we just do that for them and make this really diverse box that can target a consumer that really wants more of that diversity. Another thing about the specialty products that you're talking about, restaurants are just knocking at the door. I mean, they want to put local farms on their menus, and they want to be purchasing locally.
They want our logo on their window.
Yeah. So those specialty items, like we're growing burdock root for sushi restaurants and little things like that, those things are definitely part of the system, but they're more on the restaurant retail end of things.
Will you modify that growers basket for, say, like J6 if they want one thing, and say, you know, LPPs want something else or whatever?
Well, the growers basket is more for just like individuals and families, and the like restaurants, they'll be able to select more of the wholesale amounts, bulk volumes of product.
But the idea is also to be really creative about who we're trying to target. So, for instance, with the institutions, a lot of the hospitals are doing worksite wellness programs and are looking for ways to connect with growers through their employee benefits programs. So they're thinking about buying boxes or giving them as a benefit to their clients or to their employees, and maybe give them like boxes that they can put into the break rooms that have nuts and seeds and fruits and things that you can grab really easy instead of having the soda machines and vending machines. So potentially we could have like catered baskets for certain things like that. Or I was talking to Jonathan yesterday about maybe doing a dinner box, that maybe you get one box a week. Sometimes having a CSA is a little overwhelming for people, and they hate to see food rotting in their fridge, and they just get kind of feel guilty about it. They like that they're contributing, but they don't want to waste food. So maybe once a week you get a dinner box, and it has 5 items in it from 5 different farms, and there's a recipe in there on how to cook this dinner, and all you need to add is olive oil, salt, and pepper, and then it's all ready to go, and it's done the thinking for you. So there's different ways that we could be creative about how to market to different people.
We have a lot of farmers that are willing to alter their crops based on the needs from the...
Most farmers, if they know that there's going to be sales, they're pretty flexible.
Yeah. Tell me what you want me to grow, so you'll buy it. And essentially, that's a pretty common thing. You know, with tree producers, it's very different. Like, I got 100 acres of Valencias. You get what you get. Like, but with the vegetable producers, we have much more flexibility, and even the tree producers that have those 100, 200 acres of citrus, you know, we have some issues with our pests in this county, and citrus, while it's always going to be here, I think that sector is going to shrink a little bit, and they can put in different trees, you know. So willing to take constructive feedback on like what should be grown in the county, and we're all ears.
Did you have a question, ma'am?
Well, what about schools? I mean, like particularly with fruit growers, I mean, the schools could benefit from healthy snacks.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a little bit. No, it's okay. You were probably trying to catch a bunch of different ones. Yeah, we have a farm to institution program where we're working with schools and trying to increase the capacity. So some schools are able to bring the produce in through their meal programs. Others, they're just not there yet. They don't have capacity, they don't have labor or infrastructure. So one of our schools does a farm stand on their campus where they're bringing in produce and selling it at the end of the school day, or bringing it in for their snack programs. Lemon Grove also purchases fruit from us they have a healthy break in the morning, and they serve cut up fruit to their kids. So those are definitely avenues that we're working on.
So I mentioned that coordinated planting, and Ashley talked about like certain farms in different areas growing things that are better at different times of the year. Well, the reason we're really looking to coordinate the planting is so that we increase the availability of a single product over a longer length of time, kind of compared to what happens right now. A farmer wants to get in at the front of the market so you have the highest price, then a market gets flooded. And this is the kind of traditional timeline throughout a season. First in gets the highest dollar, everyone's behind, and the market plummets, and everyone's losing money on everything they're growing. So by working together, we can identify, all right, Susie's farm can pull in strawberries in February. We're just starting this week. So we don't need to try and get it in February. We know that our growers collectively can have it at that time. We can have that market as the San Diego growers. And Tierra Miguel's going to have strawberries till November. So we can increase that window, and we don't need to fight each other for all the same markets. Instead, we can really level out the playing field, take out the volatility of the market, and instead of getting 20 $25 for a case for the first week, and then you get 10 for the case for the rest of the season. We set it at 18 stable all the way throughout, and we end up making the same amount of money without the ulcers that are usually part of the process. Or we might even make more, because we're building relationships with those buyers that want the same thing. They want consistency, and they want a steady volume all throughout the season. While we have a lot of forward-thinking restaurants that are willing to change their menus with whatever happens to be seasonal, there is something to say for a consistent supply of product and knowing that it's going to be good and pretty consistent in volume as well. So there's a balance to achieve there in dealing with seasonality, but also a steady supply that we're really trying to provide to the county.
There's another story that I think is really awesome on the institutional end of things. Noel Staley is one of the biggest producers of citrus in our county, and he comes to all of our farm to school meetings. He speaks on panels. Like, he's just been a big help to the whole movement. And he called me up, and he said that, you know, he's a packing house, so he buys from other growers in packs. He had a grower who was delivering to a produce distributor. They were delivering 4 huge pallets of Murcott tangerines, and they got to the door and they said, we can't take these, they're too small. So basically just send them away, and they're sitting on 4 pallets of tangerines. So they called Noel, and they're like, Noel, what can we do? And he's like, well, I can't really sell them in my market, but let me see what I can do. So he called me, and he called Vanessa Siphon, who's the farm to school specialist at San Diego Unified, and asked us, can you guys get these in schools? We were able to then reach out to all the schools and say, is anyone interested in getting these tangerines? They're not huge, but they're a little bit small, which for schools are actually perfect. And we were able to push all of them through the school districts. So, you know, it's that type of thing, that in that relationship building that we're making in order to kind of catch stuff that would normally have maybe not gotten high, like the amount that they wanted for it, but at least they're not rotting in the fields or rotting in the bins. Yeah.
So it begs the question then, how are you funded to be able to do this on behalf of the farmers? And is it like kind of a startup funding, or is it something that farmers are paying into?
Well, right now, so we are grant funded presently, and we readily acknowledge the limits of grant funding and the need, and that's why we're pushing so rapidly to incorporate the growers and have that income stream coming through the growers to support the staff. So Tierra Miguel is funded through UCSD, through the County of San Diego, and there's a large grant that came in last year to fight childhood obesity, and so we're getting that funding stream to continue our work. That's why our focus has been on working with institutions first, trying to get good food into the school districts. But we recognize that if that funding goes away and Ashley and I's job aren't there by the funding stream, we want the San Diego Growers as its own entity to be operating, to be bringing in funding. So for as long as possible, Tierra Miguel's acting as the incubator, making sure we get up and going, but the growers, as soon as you see this logo in a restaurant, in a supermarket, it is bringing the money directly to the San Diego growers. And right now, Tierra Miguel, I said, like, we're purchasing product. We're not taking any profit on it. We're just passing it right through to the growers. So the intention is that it's its own business, and we're just helping the startup process.
Yeah, just to clarify on that point, that's why you're moving from the nonprofit umbrella, which is Tierra Miguel, with funding, to the cooperative model.
And that's what the farmers have decided that they want.
They had it until last month. We've been evaluating different business structures. So we've looked at LLC, S Corp, straight nonprofit, or an ag co-op, and the growers have come to consensus on incorporating as a co-op. So being a nonprofit, if the growers had chosen a nonprofit structure, that would kind of open them up to other funding streams, but ag co-op has some really beneficial aspects in the tax issues for them, so it makes sense for them to incorporate that way. But as long as Tierra Miguel is and we will be there, kind of supporting the process. We can act as kind of the fiscal sponsor to bring funding in and continue working with the San Diego growers to support staff for as long as necessary.
The local fishing industry seems a bit absent here. Do you have a relationship with that industry, and do you have any plans to, kind of partner up or do something in the future?
Yeah, that relationship is actually kind of just started to blossom in January, and they have a group of producers called the San Diego Fisher Working Group.
Fisher Persons Working Group.
And so I guess Ashley, if you want to talk a little bit about that, but they seek to kind of have the very same group as we do. They're just a little bit behind us. We've been on this for 2.5 years now.
Yeah, so we had a recruitment meeting for the San Diego growers in January, which was kind of a big outreach, like trying to bring new growers in. We had a gentleman from the Fisherman Work Group come and chat with us a bit, because they face a lot of the same obstacles that we do, especially with building the capacity of building, but also the regulations and the infrastructure that is just not there anymore. So they have very similar challenges that we do. So aligning with them is very important, to be able to have this box that we're talking about and being able to somehow put fish in with it would be just amazing. But it's all about that regional food system. So they're like Jonathan said, they're on a similar path that we are. They're organizing. They're trying to figure out how they can do policy changes and kind of ring the bell that they need assistance and help and funding. So we're going to remain tightly joined with them because it's all the same mission. We look at them as kind of partners at this point.
I think we only have a minute or two left. Are there any other questions?
Sorry for asking so many. The facility you're looking at.
You have one?
I got a one-bedroom apartment.
All right.
Do you are you looking at a facility with that 50 growers in mind, or are you thinking that maybe you'll just scale up as necessary? Or
well, right now we have like real estate folks looking right now for space with a broad range of kind of square footage that we're looking at, and as a short-term kind of stopgap, because we're really rapidly growing in our sales, so we need a place. Ashley wasn't hired to be a delivery driver, but that's what she does a couple days a week right now. So we really need a place that's more centralized for our growers, and we're not going to tie ourselves down to something that we think is only going to work for a couple months because we're growing so quickly. So
we'll probably lease first.
Yeah, before establishing, purchasing space.
So will that be where like a constant farmers market? Is that the idea of it?
So that would be the aggregation site, kind of the brain of the operation, the wholesale distribution. That's North County, so along the 15 near the 78, kind of like outskirts of Escondido is really where we're focusing. And then the public market, that's the retail front, that where the San Diego growers we're driving that, but in the end we're just going to be a vendor within it, just like other local food artisans. And that'll be where there's the permanent farmers market piece, where you also have 1 or 2 days a week that there's the outdoor farmers market, and really that community function that we're looking for. So that's more of the 3 to 5 year plan.
Where's the strawberry picking again?
Strawberry picking is at Tierra Miguel, and it's a great opportunity to taste how
strawberries
taste.
To taste the terroir, the difference in flavor of place. So it's in Palma Valley.
What is that, terroir?
Terroir. It's like in wine. It's what the place tastes like, except I believe it's in food as well.
Is that saison for beer?
It's like
14910 Palma Valley Drive in Palma Valley. Palma Valley. It's north of Escondido, northeast of Escondido.
Are you on Facebook?
We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Both Tierra Miguel Farm and San Diego Growers are on both. And
Follow
we do,
us.
yeah, we do have a lot of really cool events coming up over the summer at Tierra Miguel. We have a Father's Day camp out event with a homebrew competition. We have a Midsummer Night's Dream barn dance, July 30th, also camp out thing, and a tomato fight in October.
That's so much fun. I did that
You've
one
been
year
there?
up there. It was so much. This one lady even wore like all white.
So this will be our 4th annual La Tomatina. It's based on a Spanish tomato festival. So all our stuff is online on our website.
We also have a
Facebook,
Mother's Day
Twitter.
event.
Does it involve throwing tomatoes?
No.
All our events are very
Flower picking and
seasonally
mani
based.
pedis, maybe?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
So this Saturday, our first strawberry pick. We just started picking the other day, and there's like a lot. So
How much are they?
I don't know, Aaron.
Not sure.
It's gonna be probably like $2.50 per basket, I think. And then typically what happens is people may put 1 or 2 in their mouths. But it'll be posted on. I just did it on Facebook before I came over, so check it out. All right. Any other questions?
How long does the grant funding last?
March 18th, 2012.
Not that you're counting.